President Trump a short time ago telling Walmart that the company should, I'm quoting now, eat the cost, end quote, of higher tariffs. The comments come after the retail giant said this week that it would raise prices because of Trump's tariffs being too high. Walmart has more than 4,600 stores in the U.S. It's also the biggest private employer in the country with 1.6 million workers. Several countries that supply Walmart include China, and they're facing tariffs between 10 and 30% right now. Augusta Sareva is a reporter for Bloomberg News, and she has been writing about this. Great to see you, Augusta. So President Trump is warning Walmart not to pass the tariffs on to the consumer. After Walmart has announced that it would have to do that, is it possible for Walmart to back down on what it thinks is the reality for them?
Thank you for having me. Well, it's a tough choice, not only for Walmart, but for a lot of businesses out there, right? Because what Walmart has been saying is that they will try to keep prices as low as possible for as long as possible. But the thing is that they have a tough choice to make, right? As they start seeing higher tariffs, they have to choose between keeping that demand at a time when consumer sentiment is going down, at a time when people are starting to feel jittery about the economy, and protecting their margins. So we could see them back down at some point, but that might not be the case as the tariffs start to make their way across the economy.
So what does this potentially mean, for the millions of Americans who do shop at Walmart and other retailers who import a lot of their products from China and other countries that are indeed facing higher tariffs?
Yeah, that essentially means that after years of high inflation, at the same time, the consumers are also seeing high borrowing costs, right? Those credit card rates, they could see even higher prices. So for consumers, it's a matter of making choices, right? So if prices start to go up at a fast rate, they might start to pull back on some other things like vacations, for example, right? And we are starting to see people feel a little less inclined to buy non-essentials at this point.
Yeah, and among the consumers, who are likely to be hardest hit?
In this case, of course, it's low-income consumers, right? They're the ones that have been bearing the brunt of inflation for a long time. But at the same time, we know that tariffs, there's lots of research on that. We know that tariffs tend to hit low-income consumers harder, right? Because they impact everyone just the same. So if you make less, that's a bigger chunk of your income that's going toward those extra costs. So for low-income consumers who have been seeing higher prices for a while, the labor market is still strong, where wage gains are not growing at the same rate that we did see in the past few years. This could be another challenge for them.
And as for Walmart, I mean, what does this tell you that Walmart is making this kind of pronouncement, ahead of time? I mean, or giving a warning to consumers? What is its objective?
Yeah, first of all, they don't want to shock the consumer, right? So by doing that, they don't want to see people going out there like we saw at the start of the pandemic and buying lots of toilet paper when prices do go up, right? So they're trying to warn the consumer that this is coming so that people can prepare ahead of time. But at the same time, you could infer that they're trying to send a message to the White House, right? We know that big box retailers like Walmart, Target, Home Depot, they have met with President Trump in the past month. So that's also a way for them to tell the president, look, we're thinking of raising prices, but there is a way for us not to do so.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Augusta Sareva, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
President Trump is sending one of America's biggest retailers a warning, telling Walmart it should, quote, eat tariffs and not raise prices on its consumers. That post coming in response to the company's CEO announcing it has no option but to raise prices due to the president's tariffs on China. And joining us now, Jack Buffington. He's a professor of supply chain management at the University of Denver. Jack, you are the perfect person to talk to about all of this. Let's just start first with, is it possible financially for Walmart and these other companies to absorb the cost of these tariffs?
Hi, Jessica. As someone who used to work for one of Walmart's suppliers, I know how hard they work to keep prices down. So let me give you a little math here. So the tariffs so first off, about a third of Walmart's products are subject to tariffs. tariffs used to be about 1%. On the average of all the countries, it's probably going to go up to about 10 to 15%. Their net profit margin is less than 3%. So if they eat these tariffs, they will actually lose money. So Walmart will figure it out. Companies like Amazon will figure it out. It's some of those other retailers that are really going to struggle. But even an efficient giant like Walmart has a very difficult time absorbing these tariffs.
Yeah. And we've gotten new data from the University of Michigan, their survey on consumer sentiment. It's now at the second lowest point on record for the month of April. Were you surprised by this?
I don't think I was very surprised by that. Just a couple weeks before, the consumer price index came down low, which was seen as good news, but I see it as a softening of consumer demand. And I think all the uncertainty that's happening in the supply chain, and we also need to understand that a lot of people are not just consumers in the supply chain, they're also workers in the supply chain, that this is leading to some uncertainty that is softening consumer demand.
I also want to ask you about the fact that we've seen these ports all along the West Coast looking pretty empty after China halted all its shipping to the U.S. So is big retailers like Walmart, that's already dealing with just like the financial impact of tariffs, now you actually have the physical impact about the merchandise, but also these smaller businesses, so many small businesses that make up the United States economy. What does it mean for both of these types of retailers?
Yeah, first off, just to mention what's going on at the ports is, you may recall in April, there was a surge of all the ports, of the containers going through the ports. And then in May, it goes back down, the negative 35%. And now it's going to surge back up again in June, because the third quarter is peak season for all the holidays. So what's happening in supply chains when you have this up and down is you lose capacity and you lose efficiency, which means the ports can ship less at higher prices. And you mentioned Walmart. Companies like that are going to do just fine. It's the small guys that are going to really experiencing challenge of getting product supply and the prices that they're going to be able to offer their consumers. So again, I think in these circumstances, the big guys are going to be able to compete. It's the small guys that are going to be punished.
Supply chain issues, among other things, is making the self-inflicted economic crisis exponentially more real and tangible for Americans from coast to coast, up and down the economic spectrum. We've spoken at length about what will happen to small business owners and smaller retailers in the days and weeks to come. But what about the big ones, like the biggest? Walmart is as big as they come, as in our nation's largest private sector employer and the world's largest retailer. Put 10 Americans in a room and 9 of them would live within 10 miles of a Walmart. Well, this afternoon, it appears that Goliath, Walmart, will begin the process of raising costs of goods on consumers, even after this week's new China trade deal. During the company's quarterly earnings call, CEO Doug McMillon suggested this, quote, "Given the magnitude of the tariffs, even at the reduced levels announced this week, we are not able to absorb all the pressure, given the reality of narrow retail margins." Shortly after that, Walmart's CFO, John David Rainey, emphasized that earnings are still strong, but then he added this.
Our goal, though, we're wired to keep prices low for customers. But the level of tariffs that have been proposed is pretty challenging for all retailers, for suppliers, and certainly our concern is that consumers are going to feel some of that. So we're going to keep prices as low as we can for as long as we can for our customers and members.
Those tariff-related price hikes, according to him, to Rainey, could start toward the end of this month. It is a game-changing economic and political development, according to Neil Saunders, managing director at retail consultancy Global Data. Quote, "If Walmart's coming out with its scale and its buying power and its focus and saying that prices are going to rise, everyone else is going to have to follow suit. Walmart is firing the starting gun on a period of price increases. And so we'll return to where we began, that a recession in this country is, quote, not off the table, end quote." It's where we start the hour with some of our favorite reporters and friends. CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman is back. Also joining our conversation, David Frum, staff writer for The Atlantic, host of the new video podcast, The David Frum Show. And with me at the table for the hour, former Democratic Senator, MSNBC political analyst, our friend Claire McCaskill. Steve, I start with you.
Well, I think the way to think about it, Nicole, is that if you think about a hurricane approaching, all right, well, The hurricane's a bit smaller than it was before, and that metaphor kind of gets to the idea that the tariffs on China are lower, but it's still a hurricane. And so what we're seeing right now are kind of those first clouds that come across. And we saw those clouds in a bunch of places. The Walmart thing you mentioned is out there. Recession chances and probabilities for many of the economists I'm talking to are lower, but still considerably elevated. Think about 15% probability being about a normal distribution for the chance of a recession in any given year. Well, now they're still in the 40 to 50% range. They're not in 60%, but they're still relatively elevated. We saw a very interesting development in the wholesale price report. Not to get too in the weeds, but it looks like the first inclination of the people importing products into the United States was to take it on the chin in profits. And then if you read between the lines of what the gentleman from Walmart was saying, he's saying, okay, we absorbed some of the prices, but we can't do all of it, and we won't do all of it. So these price hikes are coming, as in the rest of the hurricane is going to come this way, at least to some extent. Does it mean empty shells? Maybe not right away, but over time, we are certainly going to see the effects of these tariffs. You cannot increase tariffs this much. That is still at these lower levels.
These are the sorts of effects that Trump losing trade deals, losing the deals he's made in the past that have existed before he was president, and also like losing the negotiations as they've been going on. This is the real effect, and this is where it's going to hurt him. Because in this first term, it seems like he really pissed people off. Certainly pissed me off, you guys as well. But for the first little bit, a lot of the anger was located in the areas and in the people that didn't like him in the first place. And I'm not trying to downplay that, how important that is, but it's sort of like, in his mind, well, I'm not losing anything because the people that are mad at me are mad at me. They were when I got elected. Whatever. It's 50-50, it's a wash. But what Trump has done with the way he's been doing his cuts and the way his disastrous tariff plan is played out is that the pain is not simply located in blue portions of the country, in blue demographics and in blue cities and in blue states and whatnot. Donald Trump is angering people in every area of the country because his cuts have been hurting small communities. In many ways, they've hurt them more because you're cutting all of these good government jobs in these small towns, and that means that these people have little other opportunities. And for the small businesses in those communities, well, one of the things that helped them was a base of middle-class government workers that had a little bit of disposable income to go, get a donut at the local donut shop or go get a coffee at the local diner, go out to dinner now and then. And what Trump's doing with Walmart is the last straw. Because I know Walmart isn't literally in every town, but Walmart is effectively the biggest national brand in the United States. It's almost everywhere, and whether you shop there or you know someone who shops there, you've worked there, you know someone who works there, you are affected by Walmart price changes. And so Trump losing his trade deals is going to hurt him. This is going to be like gas prices rising and how it makes a president unpopular. But imagine if every single item at the gas station got way more expensive. And that's what's happening with Walmart.